All right. Well, welcome to Jen Zagorsky. And I'm Nadine Nicholson, and this is over here.
Hi, I'm Derek.
Derek, and we are the owners of Ascend Leadership Co. And we're so grateful to give a warm welcome to Jen, who's been a coaching client of ours, and to share a bit of Jen's journey and celebrate with you and share a bit of what it's like behind the scenes. So Jen, welcome.
Thanks.
So how about we start with, telling us a little bit about you, about your business and what it is that you do, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I have had a home organizing business since 2010. And I am also a part-time stay-at-home mom for my two boys who are 9 and 5. So yes, I've had this business for almost 11 years. When I started working with you, it had been 9. And I set up my business to help clients organize their homes and reset their priorities and just declutter their lives and make their spaces more livable so they can focus on the things that matter most to them.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So when you reflect back to that 9-year point, where were you before
in your business,
working with us in your business?
I love your phrase, the middle zone, because when I first went onto your website and was reading about what you did, that struck a chord for sure, that I fit that profile exactly. I had been working really hard on this business. I had established some longer term clients. It was doing well, but I just found I was working harder and for less and less reward. So I definitely felt that frustration of this needs to, for me, it needed to elevate or I was going to have to walk away. It felt like it was kind of either lean into it really hard and change fundamentally how it was working or totally walk away from it. And part of that was from a financial standpoint as well. I noticed that I wasn't making any growth and I was starting to think about what retirement would look like and what my plan was for myself 20 years from now and how I could set up myself for a win now, instead of continuing to wait and see what was happening. So that was a really big thing for me that I was focusing on. And I was also finding myself really struggling as a parent and trying to really find that balance. Like I said, I'm home with my kids Mondays and Fridays. So trying to run a full-time business on part-time hours and also be there for my family and be a good mom and be a good wife and find that balance while not expecting myself to be it all, but knowing it's impossible to be it all to everybody all the time. So those were the factors that led me to wanting some support and help.
I remember still meeting you, a mutual client, connection colleague. We met up at an event that she put on, and I remember sitting beside you and chatting at that dinner, and then you reaching out and saying, "Hey, okay, so I went on your website and I read it, and you're in my head."
Yeah, it was like you were in my brain. It was literally everything I'd been thinking and feeling and wanting for myself and wanting to believe was possible. And somewhere in the back of my head, I knew it was, but also just like my clients, they know where they want to go, but the path is so unclear. Mm-hmm. It's just, I know what I want. I know I can do the work, but what is the work? And that was really where I was stuck, was like, I'm willing to put in effort, but I knew I'd been putting effort into areas where it wasn't gaining any momentum. It wasn't the right actions that were creating more momentum forward. So I really needed clarity on what are the actions I should be taking. And I needed help being pushed, maybe isn't the right word, but at least supported out of my comfort zone.
Kind of lifted out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So was there something you were just going to add in? Okay. So what had it back then that had you say yes to working with us?
As much as the business stuff was important to me, for me, it was really, really wanting to show up better for my family, and recognizing that this time is precious. We can't get it back. I lost my mom almost 10 years ago now, and that really just changed how I see the world and how I look at time. And it's not, once you lose somebody, you realize it's not infinite. It doesn't necessarily, the path isn't what you expect it to be. So there definitely was a little bit of urgency, not a hurried urgency, but an importance to the time is now. Like, I'm not guaranteed my next day, my next week, my next year. So I really need to make sure the time I'm spending with my family and how I'm doing this, I want to do it in a way that feels right with my soul and who I know I truly am. And my behaviors just didn't feel like they were in alignment with who I deep down knew I was. So that was really the catalyst for me to feel like I want my actions to reflect who I truly am.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And that's the core of what we talk about is the say-do gap. The gap between what you say and what you do. And what happens is you were in that and you were aware of it, but you just didn't know how to close it.
Yes.
And it's when that gap doesn't get closed, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it creates so much stress, exhaustion, burnout, depletion, that there's just such a lack of inner peace, and there's so much inner conflict. And so that is something that you've been actively closing. You've been closing that say-do gap to create that integrity with what you believe and who you want to be as a human being, and how you want to show up for your family, for your clients, for the world, and the actions that you've been taking to align with who you are as a person.
Yes,
So,
totally.
yeah.
And what I feel inspired by when you're saying that is the value of working with you guys. It wasn't that there's not an abundance of information out there on how to be better, do better, create these actions. But what working with you guys did allowed us to say, okay, yes, that's great information, but what really makes sense for Jen right here from my very specific situation. So a lot of information that you can find is broad and it's helpful, but it was really important to dial it in to say, but okay, for me and the work that I do, for the hours that I do it, for the all of my situation, to look at all of my unique factors and then create unique paths forward specifically for me and what my goals were and what I wanted. That was the big help here. That was it. It was no longer broad. It really brought it home to say, but let's figure out exactly what makes sense for you. Because I'm not necessarily always the general population and have those general issues. So that was the really the biggest thing for me, was getting into my life and my specifics and saying, what do I specifically need? What does my family specifically need? And what do my clients specifically need? And how to create something that was supporting all of them and integrating all of those different parts of the support.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that you're speaking to your true nature. And because, like you said, there's a lot of information out there that's very helpful and useful. And a lot of the cases, most of the cases, when we're looking at that information, is it was written by someone to show their path. Like this is their path. This is the path that they took to get to whatever it is that they're talking about. And it's not your path. It's their unique path. And you're as a human being, you're not meant to follow someone else's formula. You're meant to be able to discover what is truly your unique, true nature, because it's so much easier to be able to focus on your own path and to be true to yourself, to have that clarity to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You were just about to jump in with something.
Nope.
Oh, I thought I heard you. All right. Well, how about, when it comes to results, let's talk. let's talk about results. So what would you say are maybe is even the biggest result that you've experienced? And maybe it was just what you just said, or it could be something else since you started working with us.
Well, I definitely feel like when I think about my life, I compartmentalize it into like business successes and personal successes, even though there's a link between them. So I would say, personally, the success has been recognizing my recognizing and finding compassion for myself, and now being able to explore and show that path to my kids, and just take my learnings that I'm learning at 45 and I get to teach them to my 8-year-olds. And I think what a gift to understand how the mind works, how unique he is, how his thinking, no matter what, is okay. Instead of creating that self-judgment, and how much value that would have created for me as a kid to know that it's okay to think in different ways than other people, and you don't need to feel judged. And so personally, that's been a huge success, is being able to take my personal learnings and offer those up to my family. From a business perspective, it's changed so much about the way I do business. It's changed the clients that I attract. It's changed how I work with them. It's changed how I speak with them. It's changed how we do everything. And the biggest success is in 2 years, I doubled my revenue. And before that, it was maybe a 10% increase year over year. It was a very sort of on a very slow trajectory. And you guys told me that was possible. And I didn't, again, I believed you, but I didn't really understand what the path could look like. And now that I'm there, it just feels like there's so much possibility. And so that was huge for me to have that, to know that not only is it a more successful business, I'm supporting my clients in a better, more fulfilling way. So their results are bigger and more fulfilling. And I'm creating abundance and security for myself and my family, which changes so much too. So it's personal security, and it's getting to do it in a job that I'm so passionate about, and a job that I love. So yeah, it's just been so many successes over the 2 years that we work together.
You sound so lit up and confident in your work and in your family. And you talked about earlier about how important it was to be looking forward, 20 years down the road. And now these things that you're talking about with your family, as well as and how you are with your clients and your business, are all things leading towards that 20-year factor that you're looking for. So
yeah. And I love the idea of really thinking about how can I support future Jen? So instead of thinking about like, what does the future look like? It's like, okay, if I was to look back 5 years ago and say, oh, I really wish I would have done this, so I would feel like this is support to me. I love thinking about it in that context. And then even going back 2 years ago and seeing all of the pieces that I put in place, how they're supporting future me now. So instead of looking for support from the outside, I say, great, I get to look internally, create that, figure out what I want for myself, and it gets to come from internally and pay off externally. So yeah, it's just been a real, the journey doesn't necessarily feel like, well, it just goes like this. It's definitely, I have something here that says growth is a dance, not a light switch.
Yeah.
And I think before I came in, that's what I was thinking, like, what's the key? What's the thing? Let's flip the light switch on and let's get going. And I recognize that it's not this, it's sometimes this, and it's, it's not straight, and it's not obvious, and it's not easy. And to just know that every time something happens, it allows me to grow and learn more, that I get to come out instead of looking at that instead of looking at that as a failure, I get to look at it as, well, what was I able to learn from this, and how can I now take that going forward? That language has been really helpful for me, for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So what, if anything else, like are there any other results that you've noticed in yourself that maybe were unexpected in yourself or your business over the last couple of years?
I definitely think it's the confidence that I now feel in decisions and speaking about my business. There was a tentativeness to how I delivered information to clients, how I spoke to people, making sure that it was being very cautious about very cautious, and always sort of looking to be like, what does this person need, and saying, instead of saying like, well, what do I also need? Like, I get to factor in here, I matter. And just this real sort of bravery of being straightforward and solid, and having so much more of a trust in myself. Even this morning, sending emails to clients in regards to spending or cost or what it is, I used to stress over those emails, and I'd write them and I'd rewrite them and I'd draft them and I'd sit on them, and I was afraid to send them. And now it's just like, this is the truth, I'll just send it. Instead of feeling that fear of judgment or what they're going to think, because I'm able to know now that what they think is also colored with their own thoughts. It's not all to do with me. So yeah, I just feel like having that real faith and trust, and just feel really solid in who I am and the decisions I'm making and the things that I'm saying. And as you guys have said, like, I have my own back. And I didn't before. I didn't have my own back. I didn't necessarily trust myself. And now I just feel really solid that I've got myself. So that's been really huge for me.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, I love that summary of that. Like, you have your own back. You have built your self-trust, and that alone creates confidence, because no one can take that away from you. You've got that, and you get to grow that even more. So you had mentioned keys earlier, like the key, and I'm curious about, for you, what maybe strategies or approaches or keys have you used that have been key to creating these results? And, and why was even working with us a key part of that?
Sorry, I keep getting spammed.
Okay.
That's okay.
Reiterate that one more time. Sorry, that distracted me.
So
say that again.
So what approaches, like what strategies, what was key
Right.
to creating those results
For
like
you?
practices that you've learned, right?
Yeah.
And why was working with us a catalyst to creating that?
I think what you just said there is the keyword, is practices. So a lot of what I did before this was listen. And application was minimal. It was like, if I just ingest enough information, it'll naturally find a way to apply itself. And that's just not the case. And I think it's that, back to the self-trust part of that, is I had to constantly put myself in situations where it wasn't perfect. And even this morning, I told myself perfect is better, or done is better than perfect. So for me, it was about just implement something. And then from there, you get to, it's not like, oh, I've decided I'm doing this, so this is now and forever the only way to do it. And allowing myself flexibility to make mistakes, and which is really just a way to learn, and without applying things, and also having accountability on how to apply them. I would say, oh, I really need to do this. And you guys could say, well, when? And what kind of results are you looking for? And do you want to share them with us? And having that accountability, and also knowing not just accountability, but support if it felt like I made a mistake, or it felt like I'd done something wrong, or I was frustrated with the outcome and it wasn't the outcome that I'd expected, to know that I would have somebody to speak to say, okay, so this wasn't what we expected. What is the learn here? And what is the next move forward? Instead of getting caught in the shame spiral and the guilt and the frustration and just, well, I made a mistake and now I have to throw everything away. Instead of saying, what piece of this is salvageable and makes sense to work to continue to build upon? And what piece of that can we sort of say, yeah, that part was the throwaway. We're not going to go that direction, but how can we now build upon the learning to find the next opportunity, the next try, the next learn? And that was really the big key for me, was to action things constantly, even if I was really uncomfortable. I was out of my comfort zone a lot. Because of my profession, people think because I'm an organizer, I must have it all together, and you must be so organized and everything in your life must be. So there's a lot of pressure to show up as this person. But really it was coming from myself. I thought it was, other people's expectations, but it was the expectation I was putting on myself, and the label I was putting on myself, and allowing myself to try stuff and make mistakes and see if it worked and change the direction and take on clients that weren't ideal, but understand now why that was a great learning to go forward. But I really do believe it was the accountability and the actions that was the huge key for me. Like that's what was missing. Because a lot of the information that we talked about, it wasn't necessarily new. There was a fundamental understanding, but I just wasn't applying it. I was just hoping by knowing it would just apply. So yeah, that was the big thing for me.
You just reminded me of something that I've been reflecting a lot about. If I could distill down what would be one ingredient that is needed in a client to really help them have success in coaching and really move their business and their life forward and create more business, business with breathing room. And it's one of the things that you have and that you do naturally. And it's one of your superpowers, and it's sharing your inner dialogue. And so in the times where you've taken, you've committed to actions, follow through, that support, or you've struggled, or you've run into your fear or whatever, one of the things that we've always been able to count on with you that has really helped your growth is that you're very transparent with saying, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's in my head. And you just say it. And it's such a gift in the coaching because we're able to help you. It's simply information for us to be able to work with. We have no judgment on what it is your inner dialogue. It's like material that we can help you. So, because if it's coming up, it's stopping you to be able to take that action and follow through. So we can help you through that and navigate through that. So I really felt inspired to acknowledge you for that, for you leaning in and saying, here, hey, this is what's going on for me right now. And being able to hop on the phone and work through it.
Awesome.
So.
Hold on. Speaking of, hold on. What did you do? Did you do that accidentally? Oh, okay. Hold on.
All right.
Lost video signal. Hold on.
Okay.
Thank you for being patient.
We'll just pause it for a moment here. Okay. All right. So we're curious about what fears or hesitations did you have before deciding to work with us?
Cost, money, stressors.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, that was the big hump for me. Part of it was I had a number in my head. So then when I heard what you said, I thought, oh my gosh, I recognize now it's about, am I worth that investment?
Mm.
And didn't necessarily understand that back then. But for me, it was, okay, if I invest this and then I fail, now what? So for me, the biggest hesitation was committing to myself and knowing for sure that I would put the work in, because I did understand that I knew it was, can I do the work needed in order to make this investment in me worthwhile? And ultimately, yes, I did. I did believe that. I knew the timing felt very now or never. Like, if I don't do it now, like, it just felt very important to do it. And I also knew I was investing in something that I had such a complete passion for, and I wasn't building from the ground up. I knew there was a foundation there. So to be able to be building from that foundation, there was a bit of a safety there as well. But yeah, that was definitely for me but I think it needed to be that it needed to be pushing my edges in order for me to really then lean in 100% to it. Say, well, if you're doing this and you're going to lean into it, you are going to, like, I felt very fully committed to doing it as well.
Yeah, you really, you investing in yourself and your business and your clients and your family, you really stepped into that being an investment in accountability.
Yeah.
And that's how you got the return on investment, was doing that. So what had you, like, ultimately say yes? And you said yes twice, because you said yes, at the beginning of the first year of working with us. And then you said yes when you decided to renew, to have another year with us.
Yeah.
What ultimately had you say yes?
I definitely, for me, like I said, I knew all of the pieces were set up for success. Like, I knew I was in the right place with the right business, with the possibilities. And it was like, what's the catalyst? What needs to, like, I've got all of this ammo. What needs to be, like, how do we light this? And so it was like, that was the match. And for anybody else considering it, it wasn't like I made the decision and immediately felt relief and certainty and moved forward with, like, total assuredness. Both times it took me a little bit to still get comfortable with it. It wasn't like I made the decision and then felt, all right, here we go. I definitely questioned the decision both times for probably at least a month, and really just kind of wasn't landing in it, and was stressed about it. But then ultimately, both times, it would be like this small win, and I'd say, oh, I get it. I get how this is. I get the payoff. And then I'd have that support, and then it just keeps building and building. So for sure, both times there was fear, even after the yes. There was, like, fear in, can I pull off what I want to pull off here? Am I capable of this?
That was a big part of it for you. Yeah.
Yes.
In that
and fear. Yeah. So that's just a really important piece, because I thought once I said it, I'd feel better. And even the second time, I just didn't, same thing. I didn't really see, like, well, how much further can we go? And looking back, a lot, because essentially it's like you said, you're kind of undoing some of the old ways of thinking and building that brand new foundation. And then the second year is like getting to actually watch that stuff in action and really apply it from a sense of the previous year's knowledge and growth. And so taking all that information and applying it by using new ways of thinking instead of applying it on the old ways of thinking.
Yeah, I love how you shared that, and also your journey in that first month. Because in each time, I particularly remember the second time, that the first month of your second year of working with us, because there was a point where you really landed in it. You're like, okay, I'm in it. I'm going for it. I'm in it. No more of this resistance.
Yes.
of like resisting your decision, you know? So
Yeah.
why are you glad you said yes?
I'm hesitating because there's so many reasons. um, there's just so many reasons to just that, like, everything changed and is changing. And I'm glad that there was a community of support and other entrepreneurs that were there and were able, that I heard talk about it, said, oh, we share the same struggles, we share the same issues, we feel the same way. Entrepreneurship can be incredibly lonely and can be you can just sort of feel like you're the only one going through it. And to have that community and know that other people were having the same thoughts, ideas, and struggles, that was a huge help for me. Sorry, say the question again. What was it?
Well, really, what had you,
Just
why are you
why-
happy you even said yes?
Yeah. And I mean, just knowing the success of my company and how it changed so many things, how it changed the way I even am like moving forward in my business and investing in my company itself, and how I am around my family, and how the trust I have in myself. Like, there's so many things that have changed. And I think the biggest thing is, you know, like I said before, we talked about it, and I said, what are my tools? Like, when you go away and I'm not coaching anymore, I don't necessarily have somebody I can pick up the phone and call immediately, like, what can I lean into? What do those tools look like? How do I find my own sense of knowing?
Mhm.
And being able to develop those and know what that is, but from journaling to going for a walk to, like you said, be discerning about the people that I reach out to for advice and support. So I feel like I have tools in my toolbox, whereas before I felt like I had the toolbox, but I didn't know what I was supposed to put in it. And now I feel like I know exactly, well, not exactly where to reach, but I know that I have options on where to reach, and that at the end of the day, I will always know best what is best for me. So
Exactly.
I
That's for
don't have to panic if externally there's something there that there's not necessarily the person or thing that I need. It's like, oh, I don't need that. I just need internally.
Mm. Back to the self-trust that you talked about earlier.
Totally.
You just inspired
Hold on.
me.
You pause. Hold
Yeah,
your
okay,
inspiration.
Okay, we'll pause. Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Why does this keep on? Look out. Why is this?
Okay. And this is life, because, you know, today we happen to be recording this on a Monday, and Monday happens to be one of the days you're with your son. So
That's right.
You're in a yes and.
It is
of,
what it is.
Yes
It is what it
and,
is.
yeah.
It's all good. This is life.
Totally.
Real life. So I just felt inspired to ask you, as you look back on your experience over the last couple of years, what really like floats up to the top around what you're most proud of yourself? Like, what do you want to acknowledge yourself for, Jen?
I want to acknowledge myself for when we first started this, you asked me my top 5, my values. And the number one for me was self-acceptance. And to know after 2 years of doing this, it's funny, part of me feels hesitant to say it because I know that it's ever changing, but I definitely feel so much more landed in self-acceptance and self-compassion for myself, and how that perspective changes literally everything. It allows me to be in the world and not stress so much about every choice I make, because it's not, it used to hold so much weight. It was like, if I make this decision and it's wrong or I'm judged for it, like the torture I would put myself through, beating myself up about the decision I made. How do I like putting all that pressure on myself and shame on myself. And I think that's the lightness and the weight that really lifted through this process, was allowing myself to be a human being, recognizing that that is just the journey of a human, to know dips, as Derek put it, are not just, I used to think they were inevitable. And you said they're necessary, like they're important, they're supposed to happen. So I was spending my life trying to avoid conflict or negative, or I thought I didn't want it in, and felt bad when it happened. And now I recognize, no, the point is to build up resilience, compassion, and self-acceptance, so that when it happens, because it will, there is no end, to know that I am okay. I can count on myself. I will get through it. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is building that sense of trust in myself to handle anything, and to really give myself a break. I didn't give myself a break over anything. Every mistake I made was means to beat myself up endlessly for a really long time. And to tell myself that, yes, it's okay. You can make mistakes. You can do something you're not proud of, but you don't have to carry that for days and weeks and months and years. You are allowed to be human. And show yourself and speak to yourself the same way I would speak to a best friend. So that to me has been the biggest shift, because now that I feel that way, it changes. It's a different color. It's a different lens to look at everything, right?
Yeah.
I look at my business differently, my family differently, my clients differently, myself differently. It changes my entire outlook on things. So that really is the big win for me.
Thank you for reflecting that, and for really claiming that for yourself. Really feel that like stake in the ground. So Jen, we're curious if there's someone, out there maybe watching this, or someone just out there considering working with us. What would you say to anyone who's considering working with us and hiring us as their coaches?
I would say that I know and understand the feeling before going in, and how that can feel scary, how there can be hesitancy, how it can be unnerving for somebody to say this is possible, and because you don't see the path, it's really hard to believe somebody else can see it for you. But I just can't imagine. Well, maybe I could. It would have been more of the same. I just knowing what I now know on the other side of it, which is really easy to say when you're on the other side, but like I said, it wasn't necessarily an easy journey, is that it was 100% worth it for me to do this. Like I said, it changed everything for me, and will continue to change things for me. And doesn't mean that, oh, I did this and now I'm good and just carry on. It also reminded me that, and helped me to recognize that community and support is how we were meant to live on this planet. We weren't meant to do things in isolation and alone. We can't be all things. We can't see all perspectives. We just, and it's just not how things were meant to be. So to have the value of community support, and people understanding my business in a way that only I understood before. So having somebody to say, oh, now knowing this is how you work, and this is how you think, and this is what you want, here might be a great direction to go. So having that having somebody to understand it as well as I do made a huge difference. Because yeah, so I just feel that it was, if I knew what I know now, I would have ran towards you without any hesitancy. But yeah, it's just, it's changed my life.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. And, you know, and you've put yourself in and you've taken the steps and you've learned the learning. And there's something you inspired me just now to say, is that, and it's something I really believe, we both believe, that you as an owner and any business owner listening here, you are the asset. You are the number one asset of your business. And you know, investing in yourself through coaching, through professional development, personal development, leadership support, whether it's from us or from someone else, it's the idea of this is that it gets to pay off every day going forward. So when you invest, every action you take to move yourself forward, every minute, every dime, every ounce of energy that you put into yourself as the number one asset of your company and of your life pays off every day going forward for the rest of your life. And I mean, that's the ultimate return on investment for your whole future.
Yes.
So,
yeah, definitely.
You're a walking testimony to that, Jen.
Definitely for me. And that was also what, you know, sort of helped me get, you know, out of the mindset of this investment of, I think you had said it, you're like, it's not a short game. We're not doing this to invest to get a year's worth of wins. You're not investing for a year to get a year's worth of wins. You're investing in this process and yourself because it's a long-term payoff. It's changing, like you said, fundamentally how I think. And what that does, it's like I was on this path and now it lets me be on this one instead, and allows me to now move forward with the new way of thinking and take that with me. And also, I know for so many of the clients that you have, what I learned here is immediately applicable to my own clients, helping them understand investment in themselves. I think that's a huge reason why my revenue doubled, is because I was willing to be the client that I wanted to get. So I wanted clients willing to say, I'm all in. I'm willing to make the investment I need to invest to get the outcome that I deserve. So I did that for myself. And so naturally, there was a greater alignment for me to also attract and serve people who had the same thinking. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge reason that my clients and my revenue changed, is because my way of thinking changed. So instead of necessarily trying to like help clients make these small changes that maybe would pay off, it was like, let's make the big change. Let's do the whole thing. Let's look at the whole picture and change the whole thing and watch like even better, bigger growth. So for me, doing that, I think, was what helped me attract those types of clients for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well said. So Jen, thank you so much for joining us and having this deep dive to really celebrate you and share like what it's been like, what the experience has been like for you. So is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I feel complete.
Okay.
Fantastic.
How about you share a bit, like if anyone wants to get a hold of you, get in touch with you directly about your experience or about your company, how can they do that?
Well, for now, hilariously, we're going to be changing our name in the next few weeks here. But for now, I'm Jen at reorganizing.com. So jorganizing.com. And as our new branding and new website and everything is unveiled, it'll bounce to that anyway. So, and can always reach out with a phone call, 403-836-6786. 6523. And for us, if you are somebody who is ready to transform your whole home, which really will transform the way you see yourself, the way you live your life, the way you spend your time, those are the types of clients we love working with, for sure.
Fantastic. That sounds awesome.
Thanks for saying that. Thanks for adding that.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, it has been such an honor to be with you, to be at your side, to be your wing woman and man at your side, and to be with you on this journey. It has been such an honor and pleasure to be able to walk with you and to be here with you today.
Yeah.
Same. I'm so grateful for you both.
All right. You feel complete for now?
I do.
All right.
How about you?
I'm good.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye,
Okay.
Jen.
Bye
Bye.
for now.